Well, welcome back, everybody. We're so glad to have you here at Church Chats with Mark Burrows. We are back. I want to tell a quick story.
Okay.
So my wife Taylor and I, we met here in high school. She sang in your youth choir at the time, and that's what actually got me into choir music. I was never in your choir. I'm more of a
Yeah,
contemporary
yeah.
guy, but I really wish I was in one of your choirs
Me
because
too.
what I will say is that in leading youth praise bands as well as adult praise bands, whatever. Um, there's something to that musical excellence that we talked about earlier that I remember being here and leading the youth praise band across the street in the Justin.
Yeah,
I was in high school leading it then,
yeah.
but having such a respect and uh, admiration for what you did because Taylor sang in the youth praise band too, and my gosh, I'd sang in youth praise bands before in other churches before I got here, but everybody in that band was so musically talented, and almost all of them were in your youth choir and grew up in that. Um, so that's not me just patting you on the back,
Yeah.
but but I will say we were so excited. We've served in multiple churches and youth ministry, worship leaders as well for the last 15 or so years. And in 2019, we decided to take a break from leading worship and just go worship somewhere. Um, and we took time off and we landed at our home church, First United Methodist Church. And we started attending the gathering, and it was probably fall of 2019. And Taylor was just so excited. She was like, "We're gonna get to our kids are gonna be in Mr. Mark's children's ministry." It was so awesome. And so as we kept going on in early 2020, this is before the world changed.
Yep.
Um, Lance had asked me to help out with the gathering band. I said, okay, I've taken a long enough break, I guess. And so I jumped back into that. And he said, okay, great. After hands were shaking and all that. And he said, okay, awesome. I need to talk to you about something. I said, oh no, this is
Yeah.
like we're
Yeah.
just starting. He said, Mr. Mark took another job. I said,
Mm.
what? No. And I guarantee you, we were not the only family who said,
Yeah.
no, we love Mr. Mark. We don't want him to go.
Mm.
Um, you had talked about this being your calling
Mm-hmm.
and that calling story we had
Sure.
earlier. Um, I've experienced before that feeling of burnout where it's a calling, but you give so much and that at some point it feels like you've gotta refocus and maybe try something else or something
Sure.
like that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about this job opportunity and what it was that pulled you toward it
Mm-hmm.
so much that and that's not to say you obviously were still involved at the church, but like this was one of those things where I have to do this. Is that kind of how you felt?
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely did not feel burnout. I was really happy with what was happening here, with what we were building. Not just me but our team and the staff and our members were really building something special. So I wasn't feeling burnt out, but um, I an opportunity presented
Mhm.
itself. I've been writing music either for children or choral music for churches, schools for a long time. And someone from one of my publishers said, we have an opportunity for you to come on as an editor. And an editor's role is really kind of to be a facilitator
Mhm.
to help. To continue to write, but also to bring out the best in other writers and to identify new talents and help them grow. And that was appealing to me. And being that kind of editing work, those jobs don't come along very often. It's
Mhm.
kind of like almost like an NFL coach. There aren't that many positions, and maybe one comes up about every 4 years,
Mhm.
and so one was offered to me, and so thought about it for a while. Again, I'm a big time molar, and decided, okay, let's do this because it's rare.
Mhm.
And I, unlike my previous, I wouldn't say it was a calling. It's something I wanted to do. It's something I knew I would find some fulfillment out of, but it wasn't the same experience that I had when I was called to children's ministry, and so went for it,
Hmm.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
had to tell all of my friends on staff what was going to happen,
Yeah.
and so that was no fun.
Oh yeah, of
Yeah.
course, of course. I know it's got to be hard. Well,
Mm.
and difficult. Everybody is faced with those decisions sometimes where it's like I've got to try something, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't come along like you
Nope.
said, and as I mentioned, I mean you at up to this point, I mean you're still a very accomplished writer, a very accomplished composer, um, and so it must have felt pretty good to be like, oh, they want me, at,
Yeah, it was yeah, it felt
yeah,
pretty good. It did.
yeah,
It did. There were times I'm like, "Are you sure?
right,
I've sent you my music before. It needs editing. What makes you think I'm going to edit?"
right.
And but yeah, it did feel good. And it's interesting just my degree and all my training being music education based.
Mhm.
And so I I always thought music was going to be the thread for me.
Right.
And maybe I'll be a composer or a conductor or someday a college professor in music. And but what I found through all of this that it really is the teaching, and specifically with kids, that
Mhm.
really is that there are other things that I really enjoy doing and that bring me a lot of fulfillment. Music brings me a lot of
Mhm.
fulfillment. Creating it, working with it, listening to it, um, getting to be a choir husband and come here like
Yeah.
concerts, and that means a lot to me. Or being a choir dad and getting to go hear Gracie. Um, but it's the nurture part, and particularly with children, that really is the true thread.
Mm.
And so discovering the balance between and which one what was the main thread and which one was kind of secondary has been a real process of discernment that has
Yeah.
taken me my whole life.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, and so then this was in what, 2020, early 2020 when this happened, when you took
Mm-hmm.
this.
Yep, like February of
Oh
2020.
yeah, and so everything's gonna be fine, right? Like we don't
It's great.
new chapter,
It
all
was
that,
great.
and
Yeah,
then what happens? But the world shuts
it
down.
is.
COVID really it really changed the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so during this time, I think you had told me before how this kind of happened. Mike Marshall took over interim children's
Mm-hmm.
minister at the time, uh, but you had reached out to him and had a conversation with him after COVID, right? About
Mm-hmm.
how you might be able to help. What
Sure.
was what was that like?
Right. So the world shut down, and it was particularly affected the choral music world there because and there was this devastating. We were all watching this kind of video presentation for American Choral Directors Association of some event that had happened in, I think, maybe Seattle,
Mm.
where one person had COVID, and then through singing and the way the ventilation was set up, it had spread to so many people. And this is very early on, and none of us were quite sure how it spread.
Right.
We were
Oh
we
yeah.
were washing our mail,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yes, I remember.
and but that it came up that singing or
Mhm.
being together in group singing was what was called a super spreader
Mhm.
event.
Right.
And so choirs just had to just
Mhm.
completely, and it was devastating.
Mhm.
I mean, we are still in 2024, I think, just coming out of that
Right.
from that standpoint. And so there was really nothing. I was this new editor with nothing to edit and no one to sing it. And
Right.
once choirs might eventually, and we didn't know if choirs were ever going to be, we talked about, are we ever going to shake hands again? Or
Right.
all these things that were going to never happen again. And so what were we writing and publishing for? And if, God willing, choirs were going to come back, were these choirs going to have any budgets to
Mhm.
purchase music? And so I'm sitting there, during all this, and I can get real anxious. I need something to do. I need to be able to do something to serve, to help. And there just wasn't a lot. And so I talked to Mike and I said, "Hey, I've got this idea of something." I'd seen think it was Mo Willems. I don't know if any parents will know who Mo Willems is. Elephant and Pig and
Mhm.
Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus. And he was doing these little, because people were reaching out during COVID, because everyone was stuck home,
Oh yeah.
doing these videos called Lunch Doodles and teaching kids how to draw some of the characters. And I thought, well, what if, we do like a little mini version of like a children first sort of thing where there's a song and a Bible verse and so we met at the church and I wasn't on staff at that point. I was full time as
Mhm.
my editing work and some other staff were in there. Melinda was in there and Lance and Dr. B, and they're like, yeah, that's great. And Kat, I think, because Kat Bear was in
Mhm.
there, and she said, maybe Gracie. I'm like, God, that's a wonderful
Yeah.
idea. We should, and so great. I talked to Gracie about it. So
And
would you?
how old was Gracie at this time? Right.
Gracie was a junior in high school at the
Okay.
time. Her school had been shut down. She had just come back from her her school choir tour, which had been cut short because that's
Right.
when the world shut down. And she came back, and so we started scripting out these videos, and we would do it where it would have songs. We'd have something in the box and do "What's in the Box Today" and
Mhm.
the Bible song and a simple message. We were trying to be messages of encouragement, messages about being together, and not in the way that product people are trying to market. We're all in this together. Keep buying our stuff,
Right.
but just like you're not alone.
Right.
You're at
Mhm.
home and you're struggling, and so are we, and we're all going through this together. And we shot them in the front room of our house with crazy lighting, and you could see the cracks in the drywall, and it's just very, very real. And just would send them out. And for the
Mhm.
first 5 weeks, we did one every day.
Mhm.
And it meant so much to me and Grace to have something to do
Oh,
that
yeah, of
that
course.
was just like it's like can we I'm like, oh good, we can start to practice and let's get our
Right.
script
And
ready
y'all
and
can sing together. You're living in the same house.
we can,
So
right,
yeah,
and
it's
so
like
we
that's
sing
fine.
together and we try to work on lighting. We brought down lamps and we'd try to block out and sometimes there'd be too much sunlight coming through and cars would drive by and honk and all the things that happen when
Right.
you're making a video and so but yeah and so we did those for 5 straight weeks for the Monday through Friday and then we took a little bit of a break and then we did one more set of five, and by that point I had reached out to Amber Shive
Mhm.
and I said, hey, because I was really feeling like here's where I'm needed,
Mhm.
right? And I don't know, maybe that's too egotistical to think, oh, I just want to feel needed. But I really felt like here's where I'm doing some good. And I just wanted to be back doing that
Yeah.
in a more intentional way and reached out to Amber Shive and said, hey, have, have they filled that position at the church? She goes, not yet. Why you want to know? So I think I might know someone who's interested. And she goes,
Who
is it
could that
you?
be?
And I'm like, it is.
Sure it
And
is.
so like 5 minutes later, Dr. B's calling me.
Yeah.
And so we thank God. And I'm so grateful.
Mm.
And people will call that a God thing. I don't know. I feel like I'm just fortunate. I'm
Yeah.
lucky, and I'm still editing. I mean, I'm doing with that same
Sure.
music publisher, but with absolute clarity about who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing and where I'm supposed to be doing it.
Mm.
That's very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad that you're back.
Me too.
We're so glad you're
Me
back.
too.
So would you say so this together time? I think like you said, once a day, once a day you were doing it for those first 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, how did that impact yours and Gracie's relationship at home?
Oh, she's my buddy, and it was just easy. Like we just, we do stuff together. She's inherited a lot. Fortunately or unfortunately, Grace Burrows has inherited a lot of her father, sense of humor, just weird little quirks, appetites, just all of it. And so we just have this weird language where we can not say anything and totally get it. And so it was just real natural.
Yeah.
And it was, again, it was seamless. And so it was fun. I mean, to get to do something with your teenage girl, it's just cool, you know. So I enjoyed that very much.
I think I saw a picture recently on, I think it was for your birthday. It seems like she sang you happy birthday on the accordion. And
Yes.
you were doing or it was the chicken dance.
I was doing the chicken dance. Yeah. So she's about to be a senior music therapy major up at Texas Woman's University. And one of her professors gave her an accordion. And of course, because she knew that Grace would want it. And so Grace had it home, and once we picked her up from her spring semester, and they're talking about, well, you know, what would you like to do for your birthday? Or what do you want? I'm like, I don't want anything. I said, you know what I want? I want you to learn how to play the chicken dance on that accordion for my birthday. That's what I want. And so she did that, and Nina made red cabbage and sausage and 4 different kinds of mustards. And it was just,
good.
that was the most Mark Burrows birthday experience I've had probably in my life. Yeah, it was awesome.
So good. Well, we actually, so with speaking of Together Time and Gracie, we actually put together a blooper reel because if anybody knows you, there's going to be some funny bloopers here and there.
Well, there's bloopers, that's for sure.
So let's take a look. Let's watch that blooper reel really quick from Together Time.
Okay.
This is before you.
Hi, friends.
You grew out the hair.
Hi, friends. It's Mr. Mark and Grace. You're here. We're here.
See?
Hi, friends. It's Mr. Mark and Grace. You're here. We're here. I was about to say, hey, Mr. Mark. It's friends. Hi, Mr. Mark. Hi, friends. It's Mr. Mark and Grace.
Sure. I can tell she's laughing. Yeah.
Hey, friends. It's me.
You can see it in the back. You got eyes in the back of your head. You know she's just cracking up.
What's in the box today? What's in the box today? Tell us. Dang it. Ah! What's in the box today? What's in the box today? Tell us. I'm sorry, I don't know what it was. Something very important to do with a shoe.
Bless you.
I was trying. It is a shoe.
Bless you.
The reason that was good. That was actually really good.
Oh my gosh.
That was one of my most favorite videos to edit I think I've ever done. I watched it like 6 times after it was done, just cackling.
It's hard to wipe the smile off your face when you watch it. You just can't stop.
Oh, that kid. Oh,
that's so funny. Well, yeah. So good. So you're a dad.
Yep.
You work with children, parents. I think I remember a story, and this might be throwing you a curveball, but that you told me. You have, I think, is it Nina's family lives up in New Jersey, and y'all usually go up there during the summer.
We do.
Yeah. And I think you told me at one point that one of the things that you enjoyed doing is you would drive. Like Nina flies up a little earlier than you do sometimes.
That's exactly right. Yes.
And then you would drive, but you would only drive with one of your girls.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the way back, you drive with the other girl.
One of my favorite things in the whole world to do.
Why is that important? Or when did that start, and how important has that been in your relationship with your kids?
So that driving routine started 30 years ago this July when I was wooing, if that's the word they can use anymore,
Sure.
Nina, and she was up visiting her family. And I said, hey, I've always, I've got friends in New York. And so she goes, oh, you should come up. I'm going to be with family. And so I drove my car all the way up to and showed up on her doorstep on July 2nd, 1994. And the furthest east I'd ever driven at that point by myself was Texarkana. And so that driving up and back really became something kind of special for me. And you know, I love road trips, so it was easy. But just getting to see the terrain change and getting to experience the different foods all along the way, and the temperature change, which is nice when you're going north in the
Yeah.
summer.
Oh yeah.
And so we would, and then Nina and I would take those trips together where we would drive and then drive back and stop along the way and really do fun things. And then when Emma, our oldest, was 5 years old, I had the idea to just drive back with her. We were up there for the summer. I said, well, let me just, you know, her school hadn't started yet. And
Mhm.
so we took like 5 days to do it. And it was so much
Yeah.
fun. We went to the Crayola factory in Easton, Pennsylvania. We went to the Hershey factory in Hershey, Pennsylvania. We went to the Columbus Zoo. We went to see uh, Abraham Lincoln's cabin, and just had so much fun. And so then when both the girls were old enough, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be fun to do? And it's so great when you know, you've got three girls. So there's, or you got the
Two
two
girls.
girls and a
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, three kids. And so they're great. There's something about when you've got them one-on-one,
No kidding.
right?
Preach.
There's no competition. There's no, it's just
Yep.
relaxed, and the conversation so warm. And well, what if I went up with one and then down with the other? And for several years we would do that. And they each wanted to do different things. And with Emma, my oldest, one of the things that is so neat about those road trips with her is that you know, she and I can be talking like this face to
Mhm.
face, and it's great conversation, and we have a good time. But when we're side by side and that laser focus of the gaze is off,
Mhm.
the conversation just opens up.
Oh, okay.
And we can be together and side by side, but it's not so intense.
Right.
And that's when the conversation would really flow. And I think, and so that continued, not just driving back and forth those road trips, but you know, Emma went to college at the University of Delaware, which is a good 22 hours away from here. And so to drive her and all her stuff, that was a 3-day trip to
Mhm.
get her up there. And we would talk more in those 3 days maybe than the whole rest of the year, because it was
Yeah.
just so free flowing and just have a great time. And oh my gosh, those road trips they're just one of my
Yeah.
favorite things in the whole world. Yeah.
So as a children's minister, as a working professional, but also just as a dad, what would you say is the best advice that you could give to maybe some of the parents that that are in your children's youth program children's
Yeah.
program, just good solid parenting advice, and maybe just for that early ages, like maybe 1 to 10, but then also those teenage years. You've got
Yeah.
two grown daughters. You've been through it.
Yeah.
What's the best advice that you can give to parents?
Oh, wow. So it's a good question. You know, there's and you solicited the advice, and I'm about to give the advice. But one of the things I have with Gracie too is every once in a while I'll need to actually be a father and give some unsolicited advice, which always goes over really well
Sure.
with everyone, right? But so I'll always start it with, and we have our little thing. I'll say, Grace, some unsolicited advice, and she'll go, "Oh joy, oh rapture," and then it comes, and then I have to, and then I parent. So I'm always real hesitant in the advice department. I'm a flawed, hopefully a protagonist. So, you know, the only thing that really sticks in my mind is something that was advice that was given to me by a church member, Phil Thompson, who sang in the adult choir for years, sang with me all the way back in the old days of Generations Choir. Wonderful sweetheart of a guy. And when Emma, who is now 24, was first born, he was in the choir, and I was up there on a Sunday morning. He goes, you know, one day you're holding them like this, and the next day they're a grown woman. And, you know, I'm like, yes, yes. But inside I'm like, yeah, yeah, old man. That's it.
Uh-huh.
That's something for y'all. But no, that's way in that. Well, here she is. She's 24,
Mhm.
right? She's on her own. She's living up in the Northeast, working, and she's doing it. And you blink and it goes by. And the number of times I blinked when I should have kept my eyes open is astounding. It's a lot. I try not to think about it too much because it'll just depress me. But the times where I really should have been more present, listened more than I said, gone. I went to almost everything, but there's a difference between going to something and really being there and just really taking it all in because it just happens so fast. So don't let slip. Don't be so in love with the work you do that you forget. I have a call to be a children's minister, but I have a duty, and that's to be a husband and a father, and that is incredibly important. So being present is that's real broad, and so that there's a lot of ways to take that. But I guess I'll just say that and hesitate with anything too crazy specific.
That's perfect.
The one other thing I would just say to any parents who are listening to this, watching this, if you find that you ever need help or your kid's going through something, is to reach out. Every once in a while, a parent will email or call and they'll say, I know you're busy, or you're probably too busy, but and I'm like if, let's say mom just got an unfortunate diagnosis, and I'm like, I am never too busy for it. It doesn't matter if it's the middle of vacation Bible school week. It does not matter. I am not too busy for that. That's what I'm here to do, is to help be with you, to talk through these things with you. I don't have magic words to make everything go away, but I can sit, I can listen, I can pray. We can be sad together, but that is one of the most important parts of my job that goes unseen because that happens in private usually. But it is absolutely something I value. I feel honored whenever a family reaches out and actually wants me to be a part of that kind of conversation. So that would be another piece of advice: is please, I'm here, and please hope you see me as an advocate and someone who's a part of your team as you raise your kids.
Well, I'd like to wrap up with one last thing that I feel like encompasses what we've discussed about how you've worn lots of different hats. You've done lots of different. You've held lots of different roles in this church. One of my favorite memories is sitting in the sanctuary and hearing the youth choir sing when I was in high school, and the most beautiful version of What a Wonderful World is what I'd look forward to every fifth Sunday when y'all the youth choir would sing. And what's beautiful about it now that I just love so much is that it's such a full circle thing of Baby Celebration Sunday. The moms get to stand up and sing this arrangement that we're about to watch of What a Wonderful World, and it's so moving, and to me it really encompasses what we've discussed about just how you've moved through different roles in this church, but also how this church has changed, how this church has gone from maybe a place where children didn't necessarily feel like they could be in the sanctuary or be wiggly, like you said earlier. But I love this song, and so I want to close with this. This was from, I think it was a 2005 concert. As the youth choir. This is
right before we went to England. Yeah.
Going to England. Carolyn and Gracie. Steve, he was in the youth praise band.
James sings all. Mhm.
I know
Look at that.
I know
Oh,
I know I'm not alone in remembering just looking forward to hearing that song um,
oh.
every time they sang, and you just did such a fantastic job with them. And I'll share one thing Taylor shared with me last night. I was talking about how we're gonna be talking about that song, but also just talking with you. And she said he he wanted us to be great and to hold. He held us to such a standard, but she started laughing. She said, "You know, I know like the bass part for that song. I know the baritone part because Mark would say, y'all need to know it in case somebody's not here that Sunday and I need you to jump in
Oh,
and
yeah.
sing that
Yeah.
that portion." And she laughed, but um, I think the musical excellence, I know you were a little hard on, I don't know if hard on yourself is the right word earlier,
Honest.
but well, but there's
Yeah.
a place for that. And I
Sure.
think that song to me sums up and just how it's used back then, today,
Yeah.
who you are,
Thank you.
what you've meant, what the ministries of this church that you've touched. I just can't thank you enough. And you're just such a treasure. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for talking with me and at church chats. And thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
honored to get to do it. Thank you.
Of
Thank you
course,
for doing
yeah.
this.
Well, thanks, friends. We're so glad that you joined us for church chats. Tune in to the next one, which is coming up at some point, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Mark.
Cool.
Was that okay?
Yeah, that was great.
All right.
I've got so many of those kids now. It's
I know that's
people are getting sick of it because I go at like I taught her mom, and they're like, "We know." I'm like,
yeah, we
"But
know, we
you're
know.
tired of hearing it. I'm not
There's-
tired of saying it."